Hello and welcome back. In this video, we will be implementing the feed functionality. So let's see how that works. So if we go to the home page and if we click on global feed, that's going to give us all the global articles. And if we click on your feed, it gives us all the articles that we have followed. So in this case, we are just following Jerome, so it's just giving the article that was written by Jerome. And if you open the tab and see it, we see that when we click on global feed, we are making a request to the articles endpoint, and the feed we are making to the feed endpoint. So on the React code, we are making a call to the article.feed, and so this is the code that generates the button. And we only show this when we have the token. So for example, if the user is logged in. And now if you look at the global feed tab, then we can see that if the tab is equivalent to all, then this tab is active. And in this case, we are just calling the all function. And that's the tags filter. We're not going to worry ourselves with right now. And on the map state to props in line 58, we are just extracting the states from the Redux store. And on tab clip, we are dispatching change tab, and we are passing tab, pager, and payload. And from line 74 to line 79, we are calling the your feed tab as well as the global feed tab. So let's go ahead and implement these two functionalities. So we're going to copy the nav item, the link, and so now we have the your feed and global feed. Now what we need to do is we need to keep track of the tab. So in order to do that, let's create a state. We will call it tab state, and this is going to be a reagent atom. And let's make the default state for now feed, right? We will also want to import the reagent dependency. Now the next step is to use the state within the main view component. So first, let's remove the nav link as well as the active from the anchor tag and place it inside the class attribute, and the value will be a vector. And the active class will be conditioned upon the. So if the active, if the tab state is equal to feed, then only we show the active class, right? So let's also, and instead of if, we will use the when function. Also, let's make sure that we have the indentation right. Now if we save, nothing should change because so let's copy the same component and let's do the same thing for global. So if the tab state is all, then we can delete the line number 19 as well as 20 because we don't need that anymore. Okay, so now we can see that the your feed tab is active. The next step is to add onClick handler to each of the anchor tag. So for now, let's say that if we click on your feed, we want to reset the tab state to feed. Of course, we want to make the API call, but we can do that later. For now, let's just worry about changing the active feed. And we will also want to add this to the global feed as well. So now, if we click on global feed, the active class should be activated, right? Because now the tab feed is responsible. I mean, the state of the tab feed is responsible for the active feed field to be active. So let's abstract this to a function called handle feed. And for now, we're just going to, instead of calling the handler function directly, we're going to abstract this outside the main view, and we'll call the handle all function, which we will pass to the global feed. Let's also abstract the feed toggle component. So instead of tabs list, we'll call it feed toggle. And inside the feed toggle, we will have all the logic for generating the feed buttons. Okay. So far so good. The next step is to make the API call, right? So currently we are not making any API call, but the next step would be to do that. So the first, we will handle the article feed. So to do that, we need to go to the articles namespace. But before doing that, let's go and see the endpoint for that. So we need to go to the agent.js. And as you can see on line 59, we are calling articles/feed, and it has a limit of 10 and offset of 0. So we need to implement this, and as you can see, we are passing the authorization token as well. So let's go to articles.cljs, and we will implement a new function called articles/feed. And let's copy the articles browse implementation, and as well as we need to change the URI, so we can copy it from the line number 60 from the React code and paste it under line 28. And we also need to add the headers. So let's import it from the API namespace. So let's go to API, and okay, so it's get auth header. So let's copy that and import it in the articles namespace, and let's use it because we need to add the headers when we are making the feed request, because the user has to be logged in, right? Otherwise the API won't know. So now that we have the articles feed, let's import it in the main view namespace and call it in the handle feed. Now if we open the network tab, okay, global, as you can see, we are making a feed request, and we have an article that we are getting back from. Now if you unfollow and go to your feed, we see that we don't have anything. Actually, we are just showing. Let's refresh. As you can see, we are still seeing the article. This is because, so there's a bug over here. We shouldn't be seeing any articles. Actually, yeah, so there is no articles, right? So yeah, so this works. However, we should not be showing loading, because this is not right, because we have the response from the server. So what we need to do is we need to handle the loading logic as well. So for now, let's show all instead of feed until we handle the loading logic. So next is so let's go ahead and see the article.all. So it means that we are just calling the articles. So that's just the articles browse, right? And so for handle all, we're going to be importing the articles browse. And in line number 3, let's import it and call it under line number 14. So now if we click on your feed, it should show loading. We will fix that in a momentarily, but if we go to global feed, now we see that. Now let's go to the network tab and see what's happening. Now let's follow Jerome, and let's go back to home, and now on your feed we saw real world product. However, we are not handling the loading state. So that's what we are going to do next. So in order to do that, first we need to go to the articles component. So if you look at the React code, we are passing a bunch of things, right? The articles. So instead of passing just the articles as the argument, let's pass a map. And now what we need to do is we need to destructure the articles on line number 4. Actually, not in line number 4, that's articles preview. So let's revert back the change. We need to do this in line number 24 and not line number 4. So let's okay, so this is not working. Let's just destructure the keys. We will say articles. So let's also rename all the items to articles. As well as in line number 30. Okay, now everything should work as before. However, if you go to the feed, okay, so let's handle the loading. For right now, we are saying if the article is not sequenced. So let's unfollow Jerome, and now let's go back to your feed. Now we should just show loading. So on line number 26, because the articles is an empty array, so this logic is being run. So let's also pass the loading key as well. So now we will change the line number 26 to if loading, then we show the loading sign. Otherwise, we will show if the count of article is 0, then no articles here. So now we need to let's handle the loading state, right? So for now, let's just pass true. So it's always, now it always shows loading. So yeah, so let's work on the loading functionality. So let's go to articles namespace, and below the article state, we will create a new state called loading state, right? And this loading state is going to be a reagent atom. So def1's loading state, reagent atom, and the initial value is going to be false. Now we will change this loading state when we receive the articles from the server, we want to reset the loading state to false, as well as when we have when we are initially making the request, we want the loading set to true. And we want to copy this to the articles feed as well as in the error handle as well. So let's copy this from line number 12 and paste it in the error handler. Now we are handling the loading state. Now what we need to do is we want to copy this loading state and require it in the main view component. So let's import the loading state, and instead of passing the true, we will pass the loading state, and let's also deref it. So now if we so now everything should work, right? Now if you click on it briefly, we see the loading button, right? So let's follow Jerome and let's go back to home, your feed. So there you go. Everything is working as expected. So the next step is to basically fix the profile state. So currently, if we let's say go to my profile and go to Jerome, we see our profile briefly, and then we see Jerome's profile. So we definitely don't want that, right? So if you go to Jerome's profile first and go to our profile, we see Jerome's profile for a few seconds, because at that time the API is still making the request for the profile. And yeah, so we don't want that. So in order to fix that, let's go to the routes, and in the routes user/username, when we are leaving the profile page, basically we want to reset the profile state. So in order to do that, let's add the stop function, within the stop function, what we want to do is we want to reset the profile state. So in line number 9, we have imported app profile as profile. So profile/profile state. Let's verify that it's profile state. So let's go to profile.clgs. So if you look at line number 8, so yeah, it looks like it's profile state. So let's reset the profile state, and let's set it to nil. So now every time we leave the profile, we know that our cache is reset to nil. So now if you go to Jerome, we don't see our profile, right? And if you go to our profile, we don't see Jerome's profile for a brief second. So yeah, see you on the next video. Bye.